And yeah, give me
Let's
a minute.
sure.
Perfect. Let me introduce myself. Good morning, team. My name is Subramanyam. I'm the host and the Atlassian community leader for Visakhapatnam chapter. And this is our 23rd event from this chapter. So every month we plan for a one or two events, and the main purpose of establishing this starting this chapter is to share the best knowledge and best practices of any of the Atlassian products. It can be a marketplace vendor, it can be a direct plugin, it can be a inbuilt functionalities, or it can be admin activities. So it ranges from all the products way to Confluence, Bitbucket, Bamboo, or even EasyBI. Now it's PTC's Confluence. So we are hosting events across the globe. It's virtual though. So we have a lot of speakers who are sharing the best practices, and today we also have Ashish Saini, who is one of our speakers for EasyBI. And now our speaker, I'm lucky to host Andy Barker, who is also called as the fun man Andy in the Atlassian community. Yeah, he's just not a speaker. He's also a project manager, and he's a fun-loving person who introduces himself, who engages the audience, who conveys the concept, right? Like like the way of his facilitation and the deep dive on the topic is like a spellbound to every audience across the globe. And frankly speaking, Andy, I'm not flattering you, and even I'm not boasting myself or about this event. But to Amitava, Ashish, Venkat, and Ramakrishna, who are the participants joined for this event. The one special thing about Andy is he's a long time contributor to the Atlassian community in the different products, as well as everyone feels privileged to host his event. So I'm blessed to that. And yeah, without much delay, I will pass on the mic to Andy to share to speak about the topic. Andy, I will be monitoring the chat window and participants. So once the topic has been presented by Andy, so you can post your questions either on the chat window, or for everyone, the audio and video have been by default enabled. So you unmute and you can ask your questions. So over to you, Andy. I'll be on mute for some
Excellent.
time.
Thank you so much. We can see the screen, right? My presentation, and you can hear me loud and clear?
Yes, it's pretty clear and we are able to see your
Great.
screen.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone from ACE. I'm going to say it off the top of my head. Visakhapatnam. I hope I got that right. It's a very difficult word for me as an Englishman. Welcome everybody to When Collaboration is Torn, PTC's Lockdown Survival with Confluence. This is often done as a Pecha Kucha, and then about 6.5 minutes with just, the standard 20 slides, 20 seconds, visuals, get people thinking and whatnot. But what I love to do for the ACEs is to really give it a broader story, really go into the details of what's going on, and therefore can give you today an awesome, probably about plus minus 20 minutes insight into how Confluence was so pivotal for one of our project teams during COVID-19 and the big lockdown that we experienced here in the Netherlands, where I am based. And I'm very excited to talk to you guys today because this Confluence is awesome. I'm sure a lot of you are already using Confluence and know that, but how awesome is Confluence? And once you've seen this presentation, after that 20 minutes, you're definitely going to go away remembering that this is how awesome Confluence is, and you can share this story with others and tell people about them, and maybe even be inspired yourself to come back to the ACEs and also give your own talk on how awesome Confluence is for you. Once upon a time, December 2019, this was the last time that our Rotterdam office truly had sort of full capacity. It was Christmas. A lot of colleagues were on holidays. I myself, hence the Photoshop, adding myself to the Christmas party photo. So it wasn't true full capacity in this photo, but it was when everyone, 100% of the employees were in the office, including legal. We had visitation from our HR manager, who is based out of Germany. My boss, all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, was here. And this was really a great time. It was a simpler time. We were in the office. We could do all of our nerdy augmented reality and IoT product management from the office itself. Here you can see someone messing around a long time ago on HoloLens 2. We've got the famous cat burger, and you can see them messing around with occlusion in augmented reality using the famous cat burger. It's famous for us. We have 2 physical stress ball cat burgers in the office, and they get thrown around at people's heads all the time, but that's why cat burger is very famous for us. And we were together, and that meant that we could work on highly complex augmented reality projects like this one for Stana stair lifts, which we have built for them to help them with sales configuration in AR. What they wanted ultimately, to keep it simple, high-level goal, what you see is what you get. So they want to be able to go into the homes of people, and instead of using brochures or some 3D design combined with photos or whatever, they are literally seeing sort of almost millimeter perfect scenarios of how the stair lift is going to look in their home. And there's awesome features and functionality, all these different rails, all of these different upholsteries and animations, media, recording screen, taking screen captures, changing rails, adding a virtual reality staircase for if a salesperson is on an expo and they're doing a presentation on stage, or they've got people coming by the booth and they want to see what it looks like in augmented reality. And we were together. It was awesome. We were opposite each other on desks or just across the office. We could communicate really, really easily. And then, of course, as everyone knows, we've all been impacted by this globally. COVID-19, the infamous corona, and we went into lockdown mode. And I have to say that for the Netherlands, it was quite a shock, because the Netherlands has not experienced this since the infamous Spanish flu, well over 100 years ago. And therefore, nobody was ready for it. Nobody understood what this meant. And although the reports out of Wuhan were coming thick and fast around the Christmas period, we really weren't understanding just what impact this was going to have on Europe, on the world. And then, of course, all the cases break out. There was the infamous British man, the super spreader, who was on holiday in Singapore, or business in Singapore. He went on holiday to France. He infected loads of people. And then we went into lockdown, and we went into lockdown hard. And many of the people, I'm very virtual. I have worked from home, from offices, from clients, traveling all over the world. And for me, it was not an issue to suddenly be at home 5 days a week. I was very used to not being in office environments. However, the team I was managing on this project were very much office people. They'd been in office most of their careers. Some of them were quite young, only working 3 or 4 years in professional environments since universities. And they were totally not used to the work from home vibe. They had people around them, water cooler moments, let's have beers on a Friday, etc., etc. And so this threw us quite literally into turmoil. How do we communicate? People weren't used to using Teams constantly, unless Andy was at a client and he's phoning into the meeting. But normally the meeting was only Andy's calling in. There's only one laptop and you're hearing Andy's voice. So that's lockdown. And I'm going to dive into how Confluence was so pivotal to our survival on this project. Thank you, Sub, for the most amazing introduction ever. I now don't really need to introduce myself more than that, but there was a lot about Atlassian community, and I love using Atlassian tools and best practices and stimulating people in using them. But I also am actually not an Atlassian representative professionally. I am a principal project manager for the Global Center of Excellence IoT AR division, which is a pre-sales focused division all about helping clients understand how to get the most out of PTC's products, like Windchill, which is product lifecycle management, or Creo and Onshape, which are CAD design tools, or ThingWorx, IoT, and all the huge range of Euphoria products for augmented reality. And specifically on this project for Stana, my role was leading the delivery of Stana's Envisage solution. And before I go into the whole Confluence side, a little bit more about PTC in case you haven't heard of us. We are the world's market leader in PLM, CAD, IoT and AR software. We are a SaaS company nowadays, so everything is SaaS. We are 100% on the cloud. We don't do any on-prem anymore. There are some on-prem clients, but they are migrating obviously quite quickly to the cloud. And we really have a strong foothold. We have a huge range of products that support that whole SaaS environment, like Atlas. And it's really, really insane how we have evolved the last few years from majority on-prem into the whole SaaS environment. But more important about our products and everything like that is us and our culture. We have this purpose. We call it power to create. Everything in PTC is PTC. We always, people that care, all that sort of stuff in our company. That's quite funny with acronyms and whatnot. But our purpose is power to create. We really love to give the freedom and the stimulation to both employees and to our clients for them to be able to create. And we have brains, passion, and fun is one of our core values. And we are just really all about this massive passion. Even the people who aren't technical, customer operations or finance or whatever, people have a basic understanding of what we are, who we are, what we do, and can really live that every day. We recently, for this year, because of the virtual situation, our world famous LiveWorks event that is normally hosted in Boston now is a virtual series, and it's really good because it's 4 episodes that are very easy to follow. It's not entire days. So if someone has an interest in PTC more and what they're doing, just go over to ptc.com and check out that whole LiveWorks series. It's very, very good series on how digital transforms physical, which is a big motto of ours. And yeah, enjoy it. It's a really good series. I loved it. That's not just as a PTC employee saying that. I really did enjoy it as a person as well. Locked down, but not out of luck. I love this slide because this is Dutch for gesloten. And one of the biggest impacts for the Netherlands, of course, was cafes, restaurants, hotels, what the Dutch call horeca, hotel, restaurant, cafe. This lifestyle was gone. This lifestyle, everything, going out, going to the gym, seeing your friends, seeing your family. I think we didn't really understand what was going on and what was happening to us. But when it comes to the project specifically, we were not out of luck. Thankfully, because it was Confluence to the rescue. Now, we used Confluence in the past quite a lot. And I would say that probably, let's say, if you were to give it percentages, right? If you look at the best in class, the companies that are giving it 100%, all the apps, all the macros, they've got entire admin teams circled around their Confluence. If they are the 100%, then in the past, we were probably, best practice 30, 35%. And by using this, we suddenly were jumping up to, let's say, 60%. So we're not the biggest users of Confluence. We have a lot of simple ways of working that really benefits from Confluence, but we're not like the uber massive nerds. Our entire company is built around Confluence, like some people who talk at ACES. But despite that, we had a percentage increase exponentially. So it really was Confluence to the rescue. And now we're going to spend the final 10 minutes of my talk really deep diving into this and me explaining to you exactly how that performance increased. One of the big ones was don't ask the PM. Back in office environments, I think out of my career, probably 50% of it has been in roles that are truly office-based, and this was one of them. And I was spending probably about a year and a half had been fully in the office. And it's just, Andy this, Andy that, how do we do this, how do we do that? Oh, you're sitting opposite me. Oh, you're sitting in the office. Oh, I see you at lunch. And it's just ask the PM, ask the PM, ask the PM. And what I loved about Confluence and this situation of lockdown is that I had managed to influence the team to understand you don't go to Andy because everything is on Confluence. That's how we work. We use it as the project wiki. It's the project database. You don't need to ask Andy. It's easy because he's there. I'll just ask Andy quickly. But the answer was always, it's on Confluence, check it there. And so what I would do to be really naughty people would try and call me, phone, through Teams, or people try and message me through Teams or send me an email or whatever. And I would ignore them for hours on end. And then at the end of the day, they'd send me a message like, yeah, I need this info from you. And I would say, yeah, well, it's on Confluence. Oh, yeah, sorry. So it took them a few weeks during lockdown. So adding, I'm adding to the stress unfairly of both Confluence, of lockdown combined with, hey, you should use Confluence. But eventually it worked. And so what we had is this world of I need to know where my Confluence pages are. I need to understand what the project structure is in Confluence, because I can ask Andy, but it's not going to be the within 5 minutes answer that I really need. And these days, what's awesome is that we have a lot of resource rotation. 1 month someone's on this priority, another month someone's on that. And what I love is that when someone comes either back to my projects or they are onboarded for the first time, the first question is, what is the Jira link? What is the Confluence link? And there's no other questions. They dive into Jira, they dive into Confluence, and they're like, if I want to know this project, I have to read the available documentation. So that was a very, this is much shorter in Pechakucha. I normally only have 20 seconds, but that was a very nice, I hope you enjoyed that, because yeah, don't ask the PM. I love that. I love that about Confluence. Why is Confluence so awesome? I referenced it as a project wiki. This is a very, very old screen. The one I will show at the very end of the presentation is the current, this screen, but today's version. So I'm very excited about showing you that right at the end of it. But what I love about Confluence is information. When Confluence is in the right hands and it's being managed well by the team and they're doing their proper updates, all the information is there. What did we discuss in, where are my release notes? What did we discuss in the last retrospective? What did the client say about that one piece of UAT where they weren't happy, but we said, no, that's project scope. You have to add it to, next phase's scope if you want to have that fixed. So it's really great to be the base, the database of the project, and make sure that all the information is available. I also love the integration. I haven't done a lot of macros with these project teams. Macros don't seem to work as well for bespoke augmented reality solutions, like they do, say, something with product management when I've done ThingWorks related projects or Exceeder transition projects with product management. So macros work really much better in those type of environments, but I still love the integration. If somebody's on Confluence and they're like, oh yeah, how do I get to the Teams? Oh, it's there. There's the team SharePoint. If you click on that, it will open MS Teams. You can get straight into the channels, chat with people, etc., etc. And it's not so evident here, but that envisage in big capitals is actually our Jira page. So it connects to Jira as well. So I really love the fact that Confluence can be heavily integrated, not just Jira, can be integrated with pretty much the entire spectrum of Atlassian products, which is just fantastic. It's when I see somebody presenting, I was talking about the companies that have the 100%, I'm always so jealous, because I'm just like, oh, that's how I want to work with Confluence. But sadly, these project teams, they don't work in that way. It's more about development and delivering the solution, and not it's like, where are we going, not how we get there. And Confluence is a little bit more how we get there, which is my thing, which is what I love doing. And I mentioned databases, so storing data. You cannot imagine, people don't understand sometimes how important information is, how important data is. I'm going to talk more in details about changing resources and everything like that. But just to say, this page has been used countless times because I forced our 3D designer right in the beginning, summer 2019, I think it was. The original Confluence page, it was a different Confluence page, was summer 2019. This one was spring 2020, when the models started getting really into their ready for Unity program application. And we've used this countless times. It's like you go back there, you update, you change the data. This page looks completely different these days because it's been used properly. It's been updated. The information we need is in there. You've got feedback column, comments column, The models are now the actual models, not these basic ones that were the first ones ever made. So storing data is really, really awesome within Confluence because it's the holy grail, right? It's the one thing. Atlassian themselves always use the term single source of truth. And this is it for projects. I need info, it's on Confluence. And if it's not on Confluence, then you get to shout at the project manager, which people also like. People love shouting at project managers. I don't know why. We're just public enemy number one. Talking about databases, I will be very honest. It's a little bit naughty. Probably the big bosses in IT and probably our CIO is not very happy with me saying this, but we do not have clear policy on our stack, on our way of working, on how we work. It's kind of a little bit left to project teams. How do you feel comfortable working? We have the tools, we have the budget, just go do it. So we do end up with this weird mishmash of MS Teams, which will include SharePoint, Confluence, Jira. The client always has their own thing going on. We don't do any UI design in Confluence, which is a massive misstep for me. It's one of the big key areas of improvement for PTC across the board. And so we have to use, well, not have to, the designer chose to use Adobe in this case, and therefore we have an Adobe XD. So how the hell do we manage that and make sure people always know where to go and what to find? So we don't use project files in the classic sense of project files for Confluence as a database. We just use this nice screenshot. All those links work. People can just click on them and get to where they want. So we still maintain Confluence as the single source of truth. It's still very useful as you know, for a lot of the project data and information is there, but sometimes there's an external reference, and we just use that project files to make sure that we know where and how to get there. Sharing information. Confluence is amazing for sharing information because this one is the release notes. So what you're seeing is how we manage our release notes. We take them directly from Jira, of course. And actually, this is something recently. We've moved to server from cloud. We'll explain that one on a slide later as well. So now we've got much better integration. Before we were just copy pasting and making a table, maybe doing some additional nodes. But it's so great for, sorry about that. It's so great for sharing information. Just going to turn this alarm off, otherwise it keeps going on. It's so great for sharing information. Like I said, just don't ask the PM. Someone's like, oh, what did we release in the first sprint or the second sprint? Well, I'm going to go to Confluence and I'm going to check that. And if it's not there, then I get to shout at either the tech lead or the project manager. What is also really, really great about Confluence is that in certain circumstances, it's possible to add clients. I know companies that are so amazing in their policies when it comes to working with Atlassian because they say, we've chosen this stack. This is the only stack we want, and we want our clients to have access to our systems. And they will spend their own money for 2 weeks onboarding their clients from admin perspective, from user perspective. And then they say, hey, whatever's going on, we are using Confluence or Jira or whatever, Slack, etc., not an Atlassian product, but a lot of Atlassian, related teams will go to Slack. Obviously, it's quite a big choice for developers. And in this case, we don't have clients in our systems. On this particular cloud system, there was not enough licenses. We didn't have enough money, but it's still, for example, we've got a great module. We were on this cloud system using an app to help us with PDF print-offs and auto send via email. I can't remember the name of it. I'd have to look it up on Marketplace. It was a long time ago, but sharing information. So when a client came to me, it's like, yeah, what did I say on that UAT from July? Boom, print off the PDF, send it to them. Yo, this is what we were discussing. So even though someone doesn't have access to the system, sharing information is still very, very possible. It's a very, very awesome way to share information across organizations, internal or external. Collaborating. I mean, yeah, if Confluence isn't all about collaborating properly with people, I don't know what it is all about. This is a great example of user acceptance testing. We would do our user acceptance testing together with the client. So we'd probably be testing the app during the day separately. Nobody wants to watch someone testing on a screen share for a few hours. but we would come in and say, when we capture feedback, when we capture what's going on, we capture it together, either face-to-face, which can sometimes happen. Pre-lockdown, it did happen sometimes. But obviously, collaborate, get that live feedback from a client straight into the user acceptance testing or whatever's going on. Teams change. So I mentioned this in a previous slide. Before lockdown, this team was a Rotterdam office team. Everyone involved in the project was in Rotterdam. And what happened is that with Corona and the lockdown, priorities change. People need to get moved elsewhere. For example, our client who is in the UK, they had the option from the UK government to put people on furlough. So they did, which means loads of 3D assets were no longer available to us because pretty much 99% of their engineering team were put on furlough. And our teams are changing as well. Our priorities were changing. I lost my tech lead to R&D division for several months whilst the client was not so busy, and they have now actually moved completely to R&D. They're loving their new work, and in the end there was a decision made to change tech leads completely, and they went off to do senior development for R&D. And I ended up with some IT people from India. I ended up with people in China, someone supporting us with license keys from Barcelona. We had to take on someone from Uniontown in Pennsylvania. Our 3D design team completely changed. So the people doing the 3D for us on our end suddenly were no longer Rotterdam. They were a team from Poland. And what do you do? How do you handle that? For me, it was really simple. I've got Confluence. So no matter what's happening, no matter where people are coming from, no matter what their culture is, this project's team culture is information, data, Confluence. And it just makes it so easy. Someone drops off, another person comes on, someone new comes on for the very first time, another person comes back after many months, Confluence. That's where you go to get your information, and the whole team is always working in harmony because of it. Retros. I love a good retro. Even when a project fails and falls flat on its face, and I've had many of those, I love retrospectives because they are, for me, it's not just about what we did well, what we could have done better, what we've learned, kudos for different team members. For me, the ultimate is that it gives people their voice. There's a lot of, I really push people to tell me the absolute God honest truth when it comes to retrospectives. So the ultimate is that it gives people their voices. And I love to use Confluence for retrospectives. And during lockdown, this got even more important because when we would do retros before, yes, we would use Confluence, and you see a great example here of a sort of a weaker version of the retros. But what we would do is we'd all bundle into an office, we'd do the retro, maybe we'd make some notes, maybe it went onto Confluence. I'm talking about that 35% best practice use. And we would get something noted, and it would be there, but we wouldn't really use it actively. Come lockdown, it became really important to understand what people are thinking, what they're experiencing, how they want to do it better next time, especially as we're not together. I think the first few retros on this project during lockdown was definitely talking about way of working, how we're working together, how often we want to do stand-ups. We were doing them daily, but people felt that was too much, so we started reducing them, etc., etc., etc. So retrospectives were really heavily impacted for the positive in terms of Corona, in terms of the lockdown, and it really, really went next level. Now we have glorious retros. Whoa, oh my God. And actually what's interesting is how our way of working completely changed as a result of Corona and lockdown for the positive. Because what I started doing, which I found really interesting, is I started telling people that the day before the retro, they had to take 10 to 15 minutes themselves, which is not a lot of time out of someone's day. And they had to write their retro themselves. And therefore what that enabled was, instead of a 1 hour plus retro of people talking and me or some other poor unfortunate typing and annotating, and we're not really having a discussion, we're just hearing what people think. What happened is that we would have really great short retros talking about, hey, this is the summary, we see it, what do we want to focus on today? And we would hone in on the really most important points. And that was most beneficial. So actually, not being in an office and being in these 100% virtual environments really helped us exponentially, because people were doing way better retros and they are just like super slick now. We do them the day before, but we have a much better dialogue the day after. And also what I loved as well is that people would wait normally for me to do my retro first, because then they could just put their initials after a lot of my points, because we all have the same points a lot of the time. But I stopped that as well. I killed that. I said, guys, I'm not going to just have your initials at the end of mine. So you all go first, I go last. So that's funny when it comes to project team culture. I'm just going to stop for a quick. Oh, yeah, great. That's much better. Moving on away from retros and talking about other types of meetings, I was really trying to... Augmented reality projects are complex. They're really tough. They're highly demanding. It's often minimum budget with maximum output. Clients are super demanding. They want the latest and greatest, but they don't want to pay for it. Teams are under pressure to perform. And so it's very important that when there is a team meeting going on, or there's some form, someone makes a statement in a meeting, we will do that. You can't go back on it. If a client says, I want that, they can't go back on it for the upcoming sprint. If at the end of the sprint, they're like, yeah, that's not what I meant. No, that's what we said. That's what we've annotated. And that's the meeting notes you received from us afterwards. And I have to say, during regular office hours, I was doing it as best as I could. But definitely when it came to the lockdown, we really would sit with Confluence on a screen, any meeting we had, and we would really dictate what is going on and what is being said. And this is key, because these are complex projects. Stuff can go wrong very, very rapidly if we're not focused or we're going down the wrong path. So we really use Confluence as sort of, let's meet, but let's have it on screen at the same time. Not just talk and not just record. Like, the recording is very popular. We're recording this session right now. But for complex AR projects, nobody wants, when there's a massive F up, nobody wants to be going to a meeting 2 weeks ago and listening to a 1 hour meeting just to find that one tiny sentence when the client said, I want that. And that's what we delivered. So Confluence became very, very, very important for meetings, for meeting notes, and clarity, information, sharing of information, which is what I've talked about a lot in this presentation. There is always change. Did you see it? I'll do it again one more time for you. Up, cloud, up, server, up, cloud, up, server. So not only did we have the glories of a global pandemic and being locked down, we also had a major decision that we would finally we were bought out by PTC a while ago. It used to be called Twinkle's Augmented Reality, an agency fully focused on bespoke solutions, but we got bought out and we got turned into, we still do bespoke AR solutions, but we also support product management for Vuforia and ThingWorks. And we also do a lot of heavy R&D and also support partner channels and stuff like that. But we had to kill the cloud. It didn't make any sense to have, I think it was a license, like we had licensed seats for 25 people when there is 9 different Atlassian ecosystems, pretty much each one related to a different product line. And the main tech support system for Atlassian had enterprise, unlimited licenses. I didn't have to be the admin anymore. I used to be part-time admin managing that cloud system. And I can tell you, I'm very happy that I'm not doing it anymore. It was not if I was 100% admin, I'd be very happy, but I wasn't. So I wasn't happy. But there is always change. One of the biggest changes that we experienced during the pandemic is that we had to move from cloud to server. And it was easy in the end, because we have a really great team of Atlassian admins and consultants over at PTC IT. One of them I know personally. He is also an Atlassian community leader, an online leader by the name of Mirek. So we worked together, he and I, on making sure that the migration was as smooth as possible. We did a very easy XML export of the cloud system. And apart from our Glyphy diagrams, which we lost, we had to lose Glyphy. They don't have Glyphy on this system. So we had to I think the decision was we just make JPEG screenshots and we just replace them back in the server system. Didn't take us too long, a couple of days. That was the only major impact, but we had a pretty flawless migration from cloud to server. And I'm sure if anyone is heavily impacted by the announcement from Atlassian that server will no longer be supported in 2024, I have to say I did chuckle at the fact that right in the middle of the Atlassian world saying everyone must go from server either to data center or to cloud, we are going from cloud to server. But at the end of the day, we are now in a really good environment. Obviously, that team is looking at what to do next, data center or cloud. So this will just go with that migration at some point. But yeah, there's always change. Change is always happening. But what is brilliant about Confluence is that because the IT team who now support us had Confluence already, we just migrated. It took us a few weeks to work it all out and make sure that we got it all sorted. But yeah, it was another great reason how, another example of how Confluence was pivotal in our survival during lockdown. The power of writing. I love using Confluence for writing and generating information and data, etc., etc. But it's really, you hear a lot of the marketing stuff from Atlassian is really about the power of writing, and I really agree with it. I really do, as not as an Atlassian community leader or someone who's been in the Atlassian world since 2011, but really, yeah, the power of writing. It's really great to, for example, this is how our QA engineer is doing smoke tests on the app. We got a brand new QA engineer. We'd never used QA engineers before, and it was like, show us how you work. So he did, boom, smoke test, and he made a page on it. He wrote about what he was thinking and stuff like that. How great is that someone can just do that within their role and within their work? And I love the helicopter view. Jira issues is pretty standard when it comes to Confluence. It's always there in every template, in every space that you start up. If you choose software project within Confluence spaces. What I noticed with lockdown, and this is what is really great as part of our story of Confluence, is that I never looked at this Jira issues list. I was always in Jira. Why am I looking at this list if I'm in Jira? But I noticed that more and more I got reliant on this macro, and it was really, really awesome to give me that helicopter overview, because in Jira I will either be looking at my versioning, or I'll be looking at my epics, or I'm looking at someone, there's always a filter going on. And sometimes I just wanted to say, I want everything without having to see that huge, massive backlog, including my epics or the subtasks and everything like that. So Confluence was awesome for me because I just kept coming back here. Pretty much my workday when working for this project would start up by looking at the screen, which is just phenomenal. That's really awesome. And that's all thanks to Confluence. New ways of working. Suddenly, not only a new QA engineer, which we'd never had before, but I suddenly had a project coordinator supporting me on everything that we were doing. And I'd never had that before. All my admin, all my project coordinator tasks previously used to be all just for me. But suddenly I had somebody doing that for me. How do we collaborate on that? How do we know who has to do what? There are the 7 key topics: budgets, planning, resource planning, estimates of closure, invoices, and time entry. And who does what? Because the PM has some tasks within those, but the project coordinator is doing 80% of it. And I just said to my project coordinators across all my projects during this period of lockdown, I just said, let's use Confluence. And they loved it. They'd actually never used Confluence before, so it was all new for them, but we really loved it. It was a very great way to share information, keep a good database of what's going on for project coordinator tasks. And yeah, we used it like a meeting notes format, right? So we had, we called it project management sessions. We had one page. We never did multiples, and we just edited that page constantly for whatever was important for that week. And yeah, Confluence really supported the new way of working as we changed, as we got new people coming on board, as we completely transitioned into PTC finally after years of being bought out by them. So again, another great example of how we survived lockdown thanks to Confluence. And this is today. So if you remember that screen that I first showed way back when, this is now, you can really see a completely different way of working, a completely different style. So it's really, this is just really, really successful. And Confluence has really supported us in that. It's become our single source of truth even more than ever. People are no longer asking me. They're saying, hey, Andy, I'm on Confluence and I can't find what I look for. Oh yeah, you're right, it's missing. We need to add it and update it. And even more information and data gets stored. You can now even see my space shortcuts make sense. We've got the external MS Teams environment with the client, internal for PTC only, and MViz Jira. The key is MViz. And ultimately, it's about great success. So this client has finally launched their app this year in the beginning of April. I think that is with a 1 year, 3 months delay because of COVID. Ouch. But it's great success. They have had huge success the last year testing their MVP, and we are now finally, after all of their employees are back from furlough, which is great. They've even hired new people, which is really awesome to hear. Their salespeople are really successful with the app, and now they want more. So they want to do a minor upgrade to the MVP, and then hopefully at the end of this year, they're going to do a big upgrade, and we're going to go from we call it version 1.5 already. Client calls it MVP, but we are really going to go to big version 2, next level stuff, hopefully come the new calendar year of 2022. And that's my story on Confluence. And I just want to end by reminding everybody what Confluence means. And the original meaning of Confluence, and that's why Atlassian chose it, is an act or process of merging. And I think that this whole survival, this lockdown survival using Confluence is really about that. We were performing a process of merging, bringing people, bringing departments together, bringing clients together. There was just this whole story of merging constantly. So that's my final takeaway piece for you. Let's dive into questions. Let's see what's coming on the chat.
And that's a wonderful talk on confidence and the impact of the lockdown on the project deliverables and the way the organizations are planning their projects and are sustaining in the market.
Yep. Yeah,
While
definitely.
no one has imagined about this lockdown, so is the planning employee in the organization.
Mm.
Your point you mentioned, right? Ask, we have a project manager, let's ask him the question. Let's ask him where is the page or where is the resource available. I mean, and the way you structured one of your slides, right from, I mean, the planning of the project, like the design phase, the development phase, the retrospective phase. I mean, that's completely the hierarchy and the structure of the document, right? It gives a complete holistic view to any of the end users. Yeah, the page tree, the design, development. Frankly speaking, Andy, like some of the projects which even I work and own the Confluence pages, the client asking for the pages to be available across the sections. There are
Yeah.
multiple sections where few people, the clients log in and look at some pages where they cannot copy paste or they cannot download, but they just view.
Yep.
There are few pages for development and QA. Download the content, but they cannot delete the content.
Yep.
And with limited access, as you said, the role plays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the page tree structure is something I've done for a long time. I don't talk about it in this presentation because it is just the way I work normally. But to your point about clients, looking for view, and then you don't have pages for other areas of the department, what you actually see in my page tree is quite interesting. It's the actual project lifecycle. So we start with design. We sit in scoping sessions with the client. We go through UX. We go through UI. Once we're happy with, and then there's always some form of pre-development, right? Maybe they're doing a quick bit of R&D to check stuff. Development's already working. But once design is complete, we go into development. Once development's complete, we go into quality assurance. Once quality assurance is complete, we release something, hence release notes. Once we've released to the client, they want to do their user acceptance testing. And once all of that entire project lifecycle is complete and we've signed off, well, we close that phase of the project, and either it's a sprint or it's the end of the project or something. And then there's a retrospective. So you're really seeing that project lifecycle flow from A to B within the page tree structure. So it's not only for the departments or for the roles themselves, it's really like the project lifecycle. And then, of course, additional staff, meeting notes, project files. QA put his regression test in the wrong place once. Whoops. So that, the last part of the page tree is more the sort of miscellaneous items. But it's really great. I really love to give people it. I think it helps as well with ownership, right? If you say to a designer, you own that space, and I don't see your data, your information, it's missing. They think, oh shit, I need to update. And then, ownership happens. We get the right information in the system. Yeah, it's really cool.
That's absolutely correct, Andy. I mean, if we ask a person to do some activity or some task, he says, why should I? Why am I? And if we give them a platform and if we give them a page, boss, this is your page, you own this, and it's all yours. So if you want to avoid multiple meetings and follow-ups, you better fill this page. I better own this page.
Yeah.
So we are giving them a sense of responsibility even without hurting them or even without pointing them. That's one of the beauty of these conferences, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Forum, as you said, Amitava, you may post or you can unmute yourself and please post your queries.
Hey, hi Andy. Hi Subramanyam.
Hello.
Hi. So one of the queries which I had is, Andy, to you is specifically, would you do review and retro together, or would you do review and retro in two different stages?
Do you mean application review, as in like the quality review, or do you mean project review?
I mean the application, like in any Scrum process that we have, there's a review and retro, two different, what we call as those Scrum occasions. So I've seen many companies in India, they usually tend to do review and retro both together. So do you think that is advisable?
And I personally, for me, especially in this is very complex sort of application development, because nearly all bespoke AR solutions are R&D, right? We get a client coming to us with this big dream. We have no idea what it's going to look like. We have no idea how it's going to perform. We have to work out everything as we're building. So we're not like, let's say, classic web programmers who do the same stuff again and again, and it's quite simple. Our reviews are really separate from the retrospective, and actually the page is still, I think I'm still sharing screen, right? So you can see that the pages quality assurance, release, UAT, and retros are separate, and QA is the internal review. That guy is hammering us with like how good it is compared to what we said we were going to deliver.
Correct.
UAT is really the client user acceptance test, so that's the second review moment. And then we have the retrospectives. And I would say it's personal. I can understand why a lot of companies do review and retro at the same time. But to me, they're two completely different aspects of a project. One is reviewing a solution, reviewing what's being delivered. And the other one is really about how did we perform? How do we want to perform next time?
Correct.
And what I said about that voice, right? The reason I love retrospectives and using Confluence to note down retrospectives is it gives people a voice. I make it very clear when we start a retro. This is not about, someone sitting quietly and being like, oh, I'm pissed off with the project. If you are pissed off with Andy, if you are pissed off with the project manager, you say it loud and clear. Because the moment that retrospective closes, I don't want to hear it anymore. Because it's on to the next sprint, it's on to the next project, it's on to the next whatever, and if there's something I need to change in my behavior, or we as a team need to do differently, we need to know now and today. And it gives, and if you're busy reviewing something at the same time as doing a retro, let's be honest, the focus, in my opinion, is on the reviewing the solution. So it's a great question, Amitava. It's really awesome, because I wouldn't advise it. Don't do it.
Okay, got it.
Retro, separate. Yeah.
Got it. And my second question and my last question to both Andy and Subramanya, since Both of you are well accustomed to the Atlassian community. Any of you, have you guys ever seen structure on Confluence?
Did you say Scrum Chair?
A structure, like in Jira, you can create. There's an add-on for structure.
I have not used it myself. No, unfortunately not. No.
Okay.
Well, not even me, Amitava.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, what's your question about it actually?
It's about structure. So in Jira, you can create structure to see kind of like an advanced roadmap kind of view, rather than going to just project by project.
Oh, you mean to say like we can use the templates? We have a predefined templates available on Confluence, Amitava, where as part of your role or as part of your project plan, right? So, for example, if you want to make a decision, we have a macro called a decision. Or if you want to plan your entire project, if you want to see the bigger picture with releases, you can search for the template and you can select that. You need to customize it, of course. So like how we have the pre-built, say for example, if you open Microsoft Windows, you have various templates to choose as part of your category or as part of your requirement. Similarly, Confluence also has inbuilt templates where you can use that and then you can customize it.
Okay, got it.
I mean, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but yeah, it's an inbuilt. Or alternatively, you can use a marketplace plugin. I mean, if the PTs has a kind of a plugin for their software that integrates with Confluence, you can use that. Similarly, like a lot of Atlassian marketplace plugins as part of your requirement and visibility.
Got it.
Yeah.
Just to answer to Andy's query, yes, Andy, I was talking about the same structure which you are referring to.
Yeah, I know the guys at ALM works really well, and I thought it was that one that you were talking about, and I think Subramanyam and Ashish have now answered it perfectly. Confluence and Jira have really different approaches to structure in that way. I think that just goes to show that these were two products that in the early 2000s started as two very, very separate beings, and over time they've come together. There are so many marketplace apps for structure. I think personally, Confluence does a great job itself with the macros, with the page tree structures, with space structures as well. Having been a space admin, I know all about that world of structuring spaces and stuff. But there are really great marketplace apps out there. Many of them free to trial as well. So yeah, it's there's a lot that can be achieved with structure within Confluence.
Got it, Andy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy, for answering the questions. Thanks.
No, my pleasure. Anytime. I noticed Ashish had said Confluence is helpful in UI design or workflow design. I love Confluence. Draw IO we've used before. Glyphy was our go-to one way back when we were Twinkle's AR. And I'm not sure why. Maybe I'm not a good enough influencer, but I love Confluence for UI design, for workflow design. PTC is a big Microsoft stack company. So as part of our enterprise accounts, we can have quite almost unlimited Visio licenses. So when someone comes and they say like, I want Glyphy, oh why? That would cost us a lot of money putting it onto our Atlassian enterprise account. Here's a Visio license and away you go. But yeah, Confluence is perfect for UI design. If somebody asks me, yo, should we do UI design in Adobe, or should we do it in Visio, or should we do it in Confluence? I'm like, yo, Confluence all day, every day. It's especially if working with clients in your Confluence environment, that the client has access to it. You can collaborate, merging, the act or process of merging. So yeah, definitely big thumbs up for UI design with Confluence. I'm gutted we don't do it. I don't see any other questions or comments in the chat.
Yeah, let's go with Venkat. Do you have any queries or questions about Confluence, or you would like to talk to Andy? Yeah, floor is open to you, Venkat.
Yeah, hello. So nice presentation today. So we have given in-depth details on how to
Venkat, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, it's
You're
very
already on
low.
unmute.
Hello, can
Probably
you
you
hear
need to
me?
increase your volume on your device.
Yeah, I'm speaking through headset. How about now?
Yeah, while Venkat comes into the picture, I it's a favorite tagline on the chat window.
I
This
think
defines what
if
Andy is about.
Venkat wants to post a question in the chat, because I can't hear it. There's a sound issue. I don't know on Venkat's device, but Venkat, if you have a question, post it in the chat quickly. I'm more than, or you can reach out to us through the ACE system with the contact the host. I'm sure Subramanyam doesn't mind forwarding me your email.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, actually, that's my old bio. I need to change that a little bit, but it's still the same. But oh yeah, cool, Venkat. You're welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure. Hope it's inspired you guys big time to do more with Confluence and help help find your success as well, like we have. Yep. Yeah. Excellent.
Andy, would you like to share any of your social media handles for us?
Yeah, if you Google Funman Andy, you will find all of my online community stuff. Over on LinkedIn, I'm on. I can share that. I think it's updated in the ACE event page for this one, but I can definitely dump my LinkedIn profile, my Twitter profile here. Let's see.
Perfect.
And if you, so this is my, where did that go? Here, great. So this is my LinkedIn. So that's great. And then let's get Twitter. What a boom. Here we go. This is Twitter. And then I have an Instagram as well, which has nothing to do with business or with what's it called? Nothing to do with business or Atlassian or whatever. It's all about my music and what I do as a hobby. But feel free to come and like and follow stuff over there for it's not Fun Man Andy, it's Front Man Andy, because I write the lyrics and do the singing for the band called NDA. So yeah, come over on Instagram, come and like that stuff. We're doing a Kickstarter campaign. If you have €1 to spare, feel free to support us as we launch a demo EP. But regards to this one, thanks all for the nice compliments. It was really great to share this knowledge and this experience with you. I've had a great time this morning. It's been awesome, truly awesome.
Fantastic, Andy. I mean, we are really like so happy to have you. I mean, to me, to host you and to listen to your talk and the power-packed Confluence session. I mean, people generally think what's there in the Confluence is just a documentation tool. But once they start exploring this, they'll get to know the reality and the ease of work. Like as Confluence meatless doesn't just come out of a word or from dictionary. It just really
Yes.
mean to avoid multiple meetings, being a productive day, and yeah, to both any PMs or colleagues.
Yep,
Just to find out
exactly.
what is where.
Don't ask the PM.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right.
Excellent.
So, Tim, do you have any other queries? If not, then yeah, let's wave bye for this event, and let's wish Andy all the best and stay safe, stay healthy. Andy,
Yeah. Thank you all. Stay safe and healthy. Have a great weekend.
team, have a great day, team, and you can connect on social. Andy, so I will open this window for 5 more minutes before we wrap up the event, so can follow him. And any questions, as you know, like we have the chapter link and the email address. As when you register to the event, you have that event link and the email address. You can post your queries, which I'll be forwarding to Andy. You may personally ping him on his social media handle, and yeah, you can connect. It's up to
Great
you
stuff.
and your wish, team.
Thanks,
All
Subramanyam.
right,
This was awesome.
perfect. Okay, then team, then let's wrap up and wind up this event. Thank you so much, Andy. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Uh,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Team, if everyone can come into video, then we can probably have a selfie with
Oh,
Andy.
yeah, great idea. Yeah, love that.
Let's see if everyone have a video enabled
Everyone
option.
dropped off. But never mind.
Uh,
You and I can do a
okay.
selfie.
Just give me 1 minute.
Sure.
Yes, sure, Amitava. And Ashish and Venkat are facing the network connectivity issues, Andy, since half an hour. So they're on and off the meeting. So it's just three of us for a selfie. Hi, Amit. It's great to see
Hey,
you.
Great to see
Hi.
you.
Yeah, let's take a print screen on on our mobile, laptops, otherwise. Yeah,
Great.
okay,
perfect.
thanks, everybody, for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Loved it. It was good fun. Thank
Okay,
you.
bye-bye.
Have a great
Thank
weekend.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a great weekend. Bye. Andy, I will close the event so you can just
Great.
leave actually. Yeah.
I'm leaving right now. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye bye.